Should Christian teenagers kiss while dating? Honestly, this is one of the most common questions I've heard teenagers ask. Right up there with how far is too far, and should teenagers date? Is holding hands okay? What kind of boundaries should we set? And my answer is probably not what you expect, and that's okay. In fact, I know some people might even disagree with what I'm about to say, but before I give you my thoughts, I want you to understand something. As a pastor, I have to make a decision. Do I tell people what is popular? Do I tell people what I believe is wise? Do I say what people want to hear? Or do I say what I believe would actually help them honor God and avoid regret? Because my responsibility isn't just to make people comfortable. My responsibility is to speak the truth with grace so that people's lives can be transformed. And when it comes to dating, relationships, and purity, I think way too many Christian teenagers are asking the wrong questions. So if you're dating, you want to date, or you're trying to figure out what biblical boundaries are and actually look like, this conversation could save you from a lot of regrets. So let's talk about it. Here's a few things that I believe could help you answer that question. Should teenagers kiss while dating? The first thing is, I think many teenagers are asking the wrong question. The question is kissing a sin? And here's my answer. No, I don't believe the Bible teaches that a kiss itself is sinful. And so I can't call a sin what is not a sin. But I do believe many teenagers stop thinking after they hear that answer. Because if I simply tell you, no, kissing isn't a sin, a lot of people will immediately think, awesome, that's all I needed to know, and they won't ask any other questions. But this is why I challenge teenagers to ask a deeper question. Don't ask, is it a sin? Ask, is it wise? Because when you ask if something is wise, it forces you to think differently. It forces you to think about the consequences, the direction, the benefits, the risks, the pros, the cons, or any type of long-term outcome. It forces you to think beyond the moment. And that's important because Christianity isn't just about figuring out how close you can get to sin without technically sinning. It's about becoming more like Jesus every single day. The goal isn't to see how close to the edge you can get. The goal is to honor God with every aspect of your life. So instead of asking, can I kiss? Ask, where is the kissing going to lead me? Because wisdom doesn't just look at the moment. Wisdom looks at what could become momentum. And this would be a negative momentum. This would create something that you would look at one day and say, man, how did I end up here? Because compromise always starts small. So no, kissing in that moment might not be sinful, but if it puts you in a place of stronger temptation, weaker boundaries, and a greater compromise, then the issue really isn't even the kiss. The issue is the path that you're starting to walk down. And a mature Christian doesn't ask, how close can I get without sinning? The mature Christian asks, what helps me pursue holiness the most? And for many teenagers, that's the better question. Not can I do this, but will this help me become more like Jesus? The second thing is, let's be honest about the timeline. Here's what I tell teenagers. When do you plan on getting married? Most tell me, oh, when I'm 20, or when I'm 22, or when I'm 23. Not for a while. Okay, so let's think about this. We don't even have to think spiritual right now. Let's just think practical. You're 15, you're 16, or you're 18 years old. You don't plan on getting married for another 5 to 6 years. And you're telling me you're going to go every day texting, FaceTiming, spending time together every week, building emotional attachment, becoming physically affectionate, eventually leading to a kiss, and somehow that's where it's going to stop? Really? I tell teenagers all this time, are you Superman? Can you do the impossible? I don't think so, because if grown adults struggle with sexual temptation, why do we as a teenager think maybe I'm immune from it? Because if grown adults struggle with sexual temptations, why do teenagers think they're immune? The issue isn't that you're a bad person. The issue is that you're human, and you have a thing called the flesh on the inside of you that craves lust, and you have also this desire that God created, an attraction, an emotion, a desire He created, but before its time. And so there is a time that God created for these emotions to wake up, and when you wake them up before its time, it's like waking up a massive beast. Now you have to, instead of living in freedom, you're living having to hold this beast back from sin. So that desire, that emotion is not sinful. It's a gift from God, but that gift requires wise boundaries. And many teenagers don't fall because they wake up one day wanting to rebel against God. They fall because they slowly place themselves in situations where temptation becomes stronger than their conviction. Nobody plans to compromise. Most people just drift there, one compromise at a time. The third thing, kissing creates attachment. One thing our culture refuses to admit or doesn't like to admit is that physical affection creates emotional attachment. Culture treats kissing like it's casual, but if it's so casual, why do breakups hurt so much? Why does it bother you when someone you used to kiss starts dating somebody else? Why does your heart feel connected? Because intimacy means something. Why? Because God designed it that way. Physical affection was never meant to be meaningless. It was designed to deepen a connection between man and women for marriage. The problem is that many teenagers are creating levels of intimacy with people that they have no commitment or no covenant with. They're experiencing parts of a relationship that was designed to point them toward marriage while having no idea if they'll spend the rest of their lives together. Every time those relationships end, they carry unnecessary hurt into the next one, and you're taking parts of your ex into your next. That's why Proverbs says, guard your heart above all things. Not because your heart is weak, but because your heart is valuable and you want to protect what is valuable. The fourth thing, you don't need kissing to build a strong relationship. Now, again, in dating, when you are married, that is a different conversation, a different topic. But teenagers, you don't need to build this relationship off of dating. And one of the biggest lies culture tells us is if you don't kiss or you don't test it out, how are you supposed to know if you like it? That girl is not a bike that you try on and see if you like it or not. Hearts are not meant to be played with. Emotional and physical soul ties are not meant to be created until it's time. And so they say things like, if you don't kiss or you don't try it, your relationship won't be as strong. And that's simply not true. Strong relationships are not built on physical affection. They're built on character, trust, communication, shared values, shared faith, shared purpose, also strong affection. But there is more to that. So if removing affection destroys the relationship, then physical affection may have been the thing that was holding it together. I tell teenagers all the time, say no to that picture of yourself and see how long they stay. Say no to the back seat and see how much they love you. Say no to kissing and see how much they're your world. All of a sudden, your world left you. That guy's playing a multiverse. He's going from one world to another, simply looking for not love, but lust. And that's not a strong foundation built on affection. It should be built on Jesus. Listen, chemistry can start a relationship, but it cannot sustain a relationship. Marriage doesn't survive because two people had butterflies. It may have started like that, but marriage survives because two people develop character. They learn commitment. They learn self-control. They learned about sacrifice and how to love. And those are the things that last, and building a relationship on Christ, not on feelings, not on emotions, but on character and on Christ. Fifth thing that I would say is love protects. See, culture says, if you love me, prove it. God says, if you love them, protect them. Real love doesn't ask, what can I get from this relationship? Real love asks, how can I help this person become everything God called them to be? How can I help them get closer to Jesus? How can I protect their purity? How can I honor their future and help them honor God? Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is actually establish boundaries, not because you're scared, not because you're legalistic, but because you love them and their relationship with God and you want the best for them. And you know, by crossing this boundary could cause so many people to fall off the track and to slide back. I will tell you this, as a youth pastor, one of the top reasons teenagers leave church is most of the time they fell into sin with somebody. They slept around, they kissed, whatever, and they left the church because they felt shame, they felt guilt, and it always pushes them away. If you think, hey, we're called for each other, the most loving thing you can do is set up a boundary and say, hey, I care for our future and I wouldn't want anything to jeopardize this relationship. Now, if they're not willing to do that, you have to ask yourself, is this love or is this lust? So should Christian teenagers or teenagers in general kiss while dating? I think that's the wrong question. The better question is it helping me honor God? Is it helping me protect my future in my purity? Because wisdom isn't just about avoiding sin. Wisdom is about avoiding paths that make sin more accessible and easier. The strongest Christians aren't the ones asking, how close can I get to the edge? The strongest Christians are asking, what helps me become more like Jesus? And so for many teenagers, that's a question that's worth answering before the first kiss. Hey, if this video helped you, leave a comment down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And make sure you like, comment, subscribe for more content like this, and share this with somebody, especially teenagers, that you think would benefit from this video.